Welcome back, everyone. The playoffs are upon us. I'm going to go over last week's matchups very quickly, and then we'll get into the playoff picture. As Ryan mentioned, high score of the week goes to him, stomp of the week goes to him, as he firmly grabs hold of the top seed of that toilet bowl bracket. And I trip and fall my way into the top seed of the championship bracket. My team is dropping like flies, and I am not confident about my playoff prospects. In the second matchup, we have Big Lou winning, getting the second seed and securing himself a bye week, while also handing Jeff a bye week in the losers bracket. In our third matchup, Brittany already had the 12th seed locked up, but it's just another sad week for her as she scores the fourth most points this week, still gets the loss. Meanwhile, Zach finishes the season on a strong note, charging into those playoffs. Here, Skip's faded, very hopeful run of a bye week in the playoffs comes to an end, and Chase actually jumps 2 spots in the standings to finish the season in third place. In our second to last matchup, Paul ends the season on a down note, only scoring 78 points. But even with this performance, he still leads the league in points for by over 50. And what does that get him? It gives him a nice 6th seed in the playoffs. Last up, this game was mostly irrelevant. No seeding was affected here. Great job on your win, Tim. Now, for that playoff picture. And if anyone was still on the fence as to whether or not I do anything at work, I would like to present to you my interpretation of the playoff picture. It's just a nice gathering of friends at a Chick-fil-A. Up here in the foreground, you have the 6 teams fighting to get out of Chick-fil-A and not get stuck there. Brittany, kind enough to bring a nice symbol to show everyone what place she is in the standings. Tim was very fancy and decided to bring his formal wear to this occasion. Very nice of him. And Brian brought a drink. He's just going to get comfy, enjoy his time at the Chick-fil-A. Mikey wearing some branded clothing, dressing for the occasion as well. Probably hoping to get a JMU sponsorship out of this in some way. But that's the group of people trying to get out of that Chick-fil-A. Plenty of sandwiches to go around. Big Lou's bringing in the second round just in case anyone's getting hungry. In the top half of the picture, we have the teams in the championship bracket. As you can see, Chase is just as surprised as the rest of us that he's up in that half of the bracket. Skip's already digging in. You might see him in various spots around the restaurant. He is safe from getting handed the punishment of being forced to eat Chick-fil-A, but we all know that will not stop him from eating Chick-fil-A voluntarily. And Paul's over there just being salty, as Paul tends to be. Now, yes, I spent an unnecessarily long amount of time on this picture, so I wanted to just leave it up here for as long as possible in the video. There's no real analysis going on here. I'm just trying to make it a little bit more worth the time that I put into this. Now, that being said, I thoroughly enjoyed and found myself busting out laughing throughout making this picture. But I just wanted you all to also get some of that enjoyment. I'm also going to throw it up in that Yorktown Bros address shared Power Excel sheet, just so anyone can go back and take a look at it in the future if they want to. Now, on to the playoff matchups. First up, we have Zach versus Skip. Zach finished the season on an 8-1 run in his last 9 games. As I said, charging into the playoffs versus Skip, who had the 4th least amount points for on the season, but yet they finished with the same record here. Now, Skip's team does seem like it's rounding into form, has very good players at most of his positions, and he's not had an issue having 0 depth this entire season. So we'll see if Zach can stop that. Looking at Zach's team, I find it very familiar, as Raheem Mostert and CeeDee Lamb used to be on my team, wide receiver 2 and running back 2 on the season. As I said, my team is dropping like flies. I have slight regrets of not having these players there to fill in for those injuries. Another great trade by Zach was picking up Rachaad White from Big Lou earlier in the season. One of the surprises of the season, number 5 RB. Zach has been wheeling and dealing and turned his season around through these trades. We'll see if that's enough to stop whatever juju Skip has going on. Now, in the second matchup, we have the auto drafter versus the underwater drafter. Neither of these two managers were present during our draft, yet here they are facing off in the fantasy playoffs. Um, Paul's quarterback and receiving core have been his bread and butter all season long. Josh Allen, quarterback 1, Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 1, Mike Evans, wide receiver 7, Pittman, wide receiver 11, Hawkinson, tight end 2. Auto Drafter was on fire in these mid-round value picks for Paul's team. His running back depth has always been an issue for him, but with the Jonathan Taylor injury opening the door for Moss and Devin Achane coming back from injury, he's in a good spot for these matchups. As for Chase, just has huge pop-off potential all over the place. Dak, quarterback 3 on the season. CMC, running back 1 by a wide margin. Kyren Williams coming back strong from his injury. All of these players can put up huge numbers each week. His wide receiver and depth have been a little suspect all season long, but these players at the top can easily fill in the gaps. Definitely a matchup of two of the best teams right now in the league. As for the toilet bowl, we have Brian versus Price. And as I was looking through these rosters, there's not a lot to see here, which could explain why they're playing in the toilet bowl. For the Priors, Stephon Diggs started off strong, but he's got 3 less than 5-point performances in his last 4 games. So this coin flip could determine who wins this matchup. Evan Ingram, surprisingly good season, tight end 5. But other than that, just a lot of inconsistency here. Brian's been fighting through injuries all season long, including his team's namesake, Nick Chubb, right at the beginning of the season. Tony Pollard's turned it around a little bit, running back 10 on the season. Kittle's been good. I think he's tight end 2, tight end 3. But other than that, just a lot of question marks. We'll see who's able to squeak out a victory here. And last up, we have Timbo versus Ryan. Quarterback play has been key for both of these teams. Lamar, quarterback 4, Jalen Hurts, quarterback 2. For Tim, his running backs have been atrocious all season long, but Eckler had some good moments last week. We'll see if he can keep that momentum through the playoffs. As for Ryan, his running backs have actually been the key to his team. ETN, running back 3. Barkley can always go off for 20-plus points. He also has A.J. Brown, wide receiver 4, who can put up some big numbers, but has also had some quiet weeks of late. Brian's got a sizable lead in the predictions right now, but DJ Moore, who's wide receiver 6 on the season and scored 45 points earlier in the year, with Justin Fields at quarterback, he can put up some big points. So there's a potential for this to go either way. I'm going to throw this back up here as I do my outro. But yeah, that's all the matchups going on this week. We'll see who makes it into the next week of the playoffs. And I'll let you know on the next week's Commissioner's Corner. Just take a look. Just take a look at the picture. Bye-bye.